Welcome back to the Amy McManus Show. Another interesting story overseas in Sweden. The Swedish District Court has sentenced a couple to 9 months each in prison and fined them the equivalent of $10,000 US. What did they do? They admitted to spanking 3 of their 4 children as part of their parenting methods. Corporal punishment in Sweden is illegal. It was made illegal in 1979, and many parental rights advocates here in the United States are concerned it could happen here. Court documents said that the parents explained that they had used what they described as spanking and physical punishment as part of the methods for raising their children. There's no indication of abuse in the family. The children are healthy, seem to be well adjusted, etc. But it doesn't matter. They took the kids, put them into foster care. The sad part of this story is that in most of these cases, especially in Sweden, once the children are taken from the parents, they pretty much, that's it. They don't see them again until they're 18. There's very little recourse or appeals when your children are taken away from you in Sweden. So these poor kids, in spite of having a loving family and appearing to be, perfectly healthy emotionally, psychologically, and everything else, were taken away from their loving parents and now have to spend the rest of their childhood in foster care. Another story of that same thing happening there in Sweden as well, a year or 2 ago, was another boy was taken by state officials as well. What was the crime of his parents? Well, his parents were homeschooling the boy. Homeschooling as well is illegal in Sweden. So if anybody is pro-family and wants to find a nice place to live, to raise your family as you see fit, don't go to Sweden. It's kind of surprising that more people haven't left, precisely due to the fact that the government has become a complete nanny state there, and the parents have virtually no rights. So again, they're going to spend 9 months in prison and $10,000 each for spanking their children. Some more health news. This was on FoxNewsHealth.com. This American guy in Germany, by the name of Timothy Ray Brown. Some exciting news there, but this story is rather interesting. His name is Timothy Ray Brown. He's HIV positive. He had leukemia and was undergoing chemotherapy, and he received a transplant of stem cells from a donor carrying a gene, apparently very rare, genetic. It's a mutation that seemed to make the cell carriers immune to HIV infection. The transplant appeared to wipe out not only his leukemia, but his HIV as well. Anthony Fauci, who's director of the National Institutes of Allergies and Infections, is not excited about this. It's kind of interesting. I've got 2 different doctors here in this story with somewhat paradoxical view on it. He says it's impractical. He said it's hard to get a good compatible match for a transplant like this. Understanding, of course, the whole issue with bone marrow and finding that perfect match, how difficult that it is in itself, and then also having to find a person who carries this rare gene that makes them immune to HIV. So he's calling it impractical, and that the patient is only functionally cured, and that his HIV symptoms could pop up again in a few years. So he's not excited about it at all. Another doctor, however, from Johns Hopkins Center here in the U.S., Dr. Thomas Quinn, is excited about it. He's saying that although it is an unusual case, he has some hopes there that whatever they can do with this specific gene that is rare, but some people do have, that's the key, and that maybe an overall cure for AIDS can be found in the next few years. This guy, Tim Ray Brown, it's been 3 years since he got adult stem cell transplant, and he still has shown no signs of having the HIV virus, even though he was documented to indeed have it. So another success, again, for adult stem cell transplants, which have been proven to be highly successful in many, many cases, unlike embryonic stem cell research. Also out of time, as many of you may know, the person of the year that they have. They allowed you to vote between Julian Assange and Mark Zuckerberg. I guess what was interesting about that was not so much that Mark Zuckerberg was chosen, but that the letter of the editor of Time explained his reasons behind the decision. Most of the readers of Time, who most of us could say probably lean a little bit left, voted for Julian Assange. And the editor of Time made a judgment call and opted for Mark Zuckerberg instead. And here's what he said: there's an erosion of trust and authority, a decentralizing of power, and at the same time a greater faith in one another. He says that they are two sides of the same coin. Assange attacks big institutions and governments through involuntary transparency with the goal of disempowering them, while Zuckerberg enables individuals to voluntarily share information with the idea of empowering them. Assange sees the world as filled with real and imagined enemies. Zuckerberg sees the world as filled with potential friends. So interesting decision there by the editor of Time. Another story out of USA Today from the United States Post Office. You know how they have different post offices have people that open the Dear Santa letters. What they have found is that kids are asking for the basics right now, more so than they have ever seen. The guy who's in charge of this program in New York City, a guy named Pete Fontana, they sort through 2 million letters for Operation Santa, and he said in all of his career, over 15 years, he has never seen such a huge number of letters just asking for basic things such as coats, socks, or boots or gloves. He said one girl didn't want anything for herself. She wanted a coat for her mother. So another indication of how things are economically, and a good barometer of that is these Dear Santa letters. Another poll about Christmas. Rasmussen did a really interesting poll about Christmas. It is a religious holiday, according to most Americans, despite what we see in commercials and in movies. 92% of all adults celebrate Christmas, and those who do celebrate it, 66% do regard it as a religious holiday. 6% of people do not celebrate Christmas. However, a good portion of those celebrate Hanukkah instead. The study was done December 4th and 5th by Rasmussen, and some other interesting facts on it was that women tend to celebrate Christmas as a religious holiday more than men. No surprise there. Adults who are married and have children are more likely to celebrate Christmas as a religious holiday than those who are not married and do not have children at home. I think we see that in our own communities as well. Evangelical Christians and those who attend church regularly, of course, are more likely to celebrate Christmas as a religious holiday. Few Americans are offended. This is interesting. Few Americans are offended when someone wishes them a Merry Christmas, but most of us are likely to say Happy Holidays rather than risk offending other people. But Americans do prefer Merry Christmas, especially when they go into stores. As I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, they prefer the signs that say Merry Christmas or Christmas sale and Christmas deals rather than Happy Holidays. So on that note, Merry Christmas. You've been listening to the Amy McManus Show.